everyone. This is That Brown Bish, and I'm your host, Nalani Selvasingham. Joining me today, I have the first Tamil administrator in the Toronto Catholic District School Board. I am so proud to call her my cousin, Scotula N. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to call you Donaka, but thank you, Donaka, for coming.
Yes. Thank you for having me, Nilani. I'm excited.
Well, me too.
We always have fun,
Of course,
in our chats.
We always get really loud. And then
we do. It's a sign of the family, but it's all good.
To start off, I actually wanted to start all the way from the beginning. So You started off in life sciences. So what made you make that jump into education, or when did you decide that, this is actually the path that you wanted to follow?
Actually, surprisingly, fourth year, I was volunteering. So initially I wanted to do something in the medical field, and I was volunteering at Centenary Hospital. And one of the patients there was actually my favorite professor, Professor Govind, who first day of biology lab, made us test our own pee. Okay. So everybody was hiding, testing density of their own pee and stuff like that. Anyway, just really, really funny Indian guy. It's really hard to see brown professors. So it was kind of cool. I really enjoyed his classes. And then I saw him at the hospital. So he was there. One day I went in, he wasn't doing too well. And then the next day, somebody else was in his bed. And I said to the nurse, I was like, so where's Professor Govind? And she said, oh, he passed away last night. And I just thought to myself, and somebody else is in that bed, the next second, and how am I going to do this? Do I really want to work in a hospital? It was so depressing, to be honest, because that's what I had pictured my entire life.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I don't know where I'm at. So fourth year, we did this survey, and it was 80% of people had no clue what they were going to do after university.
Yeah.
And so I actually took a year off after, and I worked at a call center that I had been working on and off, and then Ravi, who is my husband, so he actually suggested, you know what, you seem confused at the moment as to what to do, but you love kids. So why don't you go volunteer at a school or something and see if you like that? So I went to volunteer at Goretti, which is my elementary school, and just fell in love with the kids. And so from there, I applied to Teachers College, and I applied out everywhere other than Toronto, because my dad wanted me to stay in Toronto. And so I got the acceptance to Ottawa U on my mom's birthday. And so I told my dad I'm going to Ottawa, and he said, you're never going to last. And I said, I'm going to prove it. A brown girl who's lived with her dad all her life is going to make it in Ottawa for a year.
How did he feel about you switching paths?
Field? Oh, yeah. You know what? He was actually really upset. So he didn't say it. And then I know, Sacramento. So one of my aunts called me, and she was like, your dad's so disappointed. And I felt so bad. I was just like, okay, yeah, but I can't see myself doing it for the rest of my life. And kudos to, all the medical professionals, but it was just not my thing. I love science, but now I get to teach it. So, so it was good. Yeah.
Good on you, because I can't even imagine the kind of pressure you would have felt at that time to be yo, I need to just continue down this path, this road, because everyone is expecting me to do that. But to kind of go against it and just kind of choose your own thing and be strong enough and confident enough in yourself to, pursue that new dream. Honestly, that's kudos to you for doing that, because that couldn't have been easy. Yeah, but it's kind of cute that your dad couldn't tell you himself, and he kind of got your aunt to do it for him. I feel he was probably can you talk to her, can you just tell her
yeah, he was always afraid to talk to me about certain things, but now it's good.
Yeah. So how come you're, I think you've done high school, right?
So I started out in elementary. Okay. I did primary junior, and it's the weirdest story ever, so I'll share. But I was in primary junior and doing grade 1, grade 2 for 3 years. Didn't get hired permanent, so was doing supply work and all of that stuff. And then one day out of the blue, I had a high school teacher who I loved. And I had sent her my resume to say, I know you're a high school vice principal, but maybe if you know some elementary principals, can you send them my resume, right?
Yeah.
So I just emailed her. Yeah. She called me and she's like, Scotula, how about high school? And I said, are you crazy? Like literally, that was the conversation. And then she said, if you can do grade 1, you can do grade 9. Why don't you come and see me tomorrow after, your supply job and whatever. And then, we'll talk. Okay.
Right.
So here I'm like, sure, we'll grab a coffee. We'll talk. You can, tell me a little bit about high school.
Yeah. You can sell me on it.
Yeah. So I go after a supply job at like 3:30. I was there. There's another woman sitting beside me and we get to talking and she's like, yeah, I'm here for an interview. I was like, oh, okay, good for you. I'm here, to have coffee with.
I'm just looking to have a beverage. Really.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
So then out comes the principal and he goes, who's Scotula? And I'm like, oh, hi. And I'm like, she's, this is not the same person that I came here to see.
Yeah.
And he's like, come on in. So I go in and Nanani, it was the principal's office, 2 of the vice principals, one being, the teacher that I know, like from high school.
Right.
And the principal. And they did a round robin interview, one after the other. And you can imagine the shock on my face. I had nothing prepared. Yeah. And so at one point, the principal, Peter Aguiar, who's now a superintendent, he was so funny. He goes, so Scotula, do you have a resume? And I gave Gianna, the other vice principal, like the death stare. Like, I'm going to kill you.
Oh my.
And then she spoke up. She was like, actually, Peter, Scotula doesn't have her resume. She did send it to me, but she thought we were having coffee.
Well, I'm glad she actually said something, but this is like my worst nightmare come
Thank
true.
You. Like ambush interview, okay?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so then I left, and one of the questions he asked, because normally when you go for an interview, you would know the school and you would
prep,
research about it. Yeah. And then he's like, so, why do you want to be at the time it was called Vanier, why do you want to be at Vanier? So I had no answer for him. I just looked at him. I said, well, I'm Tamil and you have a huge Tamil population. I can speak the language. Hire me. And I left. And
right there, yeah.
Yeah. And then she said how, the other vice principal and the principal were like, yeah, clearly, she didn't know that she was having an interview, but I really liked her. And then the other one said I liked her too. So then they hired me for a year. That was also an LTO. It was just for that year.
Sure.
So she came and saw me. She apologized. And she said, listen, I know that we need you here. Mm-hmm. And, it's only for a year. If you hate it, go back to elementary.
Right.
So I was like, okay. And when I did report cards, my first time, I literally had to ask 10 people, is this it? This is all I have to do? Are you serious? Because in elementary, it takes 2 weeks to do report cards, right? You're writing individual comments. Mm-hmm. And so I was sold. And then came June, they had a permanent position. So Peter came up to me and goes, so we're going to interview you for a permanent. I was like, okay. I had all my unit plans, my resume updated. I went into the office and I gave him everything. And I said, Peter, this time I'm prepared. He actually took it, threw it on the table and said, sit down, Scotula. We already know you. What do you want to teach next year?
Hey. Yeah. I think you started off teaching religion, right? Religion and something.
Yeah. I did.
There's something else as well, or is it just religion?
Actually, I think it was just religion initially, and then I went to student success, and then I also did a bit of science as well, mm-hmm. and credit recovery and all that, and worked with students, who are failing. And it was really funny because all the Tamil students knew, Miss N would call home, right, and speak their language.
I know.
They couldn't get away with it, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so those kids, if they skipped one day, I knew, and I would stand outside their door, and everybody else would be like, "Ooh, you're in trouble."
I know my sister says the same thing. Whenever she has kids, sometimes she has children because she does Markham, right? She does York Region. So whenever she has kids, sometimes she has kids that we know, their parents and stuff, in her classes. And
That's the
like they
best.
won't really recognize her because it
Yeah.
may have been a long time since they've seen her, but she recognizes them. And if they're like misbehaving, she'll be like, I know your mom and dad. And they're just like freak out.
That's so
Oh my
funny.
gosh.
Yeah, no, I loved it there. I actually loved it there for the like 10 years that I was there.
Wow.
And then I knew that I wanted to go into administration. Literally, like every principal that I had come across, and at this point it was like four other principals, had like tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Have you thought about admin? I think you'd be really great." And so I was like, okay, I think it's a possibility, but
Yeah.
there's a lot to do, right? Like you have to get like two specialists, which are 3 courses each. Then you have to get your religion part 1 because it's a Catholic board.
Yeah.
And then you have to make sure you do your master's. You have to have qualifications in 3 areas. I had primary, junior, and I just had finished senior,
Hmm.
but one of them has to be intermediate. So then I had to go back and do an intermediate qualification. And then you have to do all your principals courses. So it took me a while. It took me about 6 years. But
Yeah.
in the process, I knew that, I didn't want to stay at one school for like 10 years. 10 years was a lot.
Long
And
time.
you
Yeah.
got to learn from different people and learn from different administrators. So I had a mentor administrator who was like 2 years younger than me, but he's a principal,
Mhm.
and we had met in summer school. So he said, "Oh, I think I have a science job for you at St. Michael's Choir School, which is an all boys school." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Me and all boys, I don't know if that's gonna go well." But I got there, and then he's like, "Oh, by the way, you're also teaching phys ed, and you're also the chaplain." I was like,
It just seems like a lot of people like to spring things on you like last minute. Like once they thought
seriously,
you would
right?
commit, they're like, yeah, oh yeah, by the way,
Yeah.
A,
By
B.
the way, I clearly bring out the weird in people, but
So how long were you like an educator before you started that process, or like even considered becoming an administrator? Like, how long
I
did-
would say about like 8 years in.
yeah.
Yeah, 7, 8 years in, I thought, okay, like this is something that could be the next step, and I started working towards it.
So what was it about being an administrator that made you want to be like, or like I know like a lot of people suggested it to you like right from the
Mhm.
beginning. So, but what else? What was it that actually like attracted you to it or captivated you? Because a lot of people are educators and like that role and like as teachers like want to stay in that role. So
Mhm.
what? Yeah, what was it?
I think my first week actually at Vanier was important in it. It was one of the major reasons why, and it was because I was told to do this like liturgical dance, like voluntold, right? And and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll call down students to try and practice for this. And I called down students. I had 2 Tamil girls who came up to me at the end who said, "Miss, we didn't realize we could be teachers." And I said, "What do you mean? You can be anything you want to be." And they said, "No, miss, we've never seen a Tamil teacher before." And I just thought, like, wow, okay, like I'm in the right place, at the right time for these girls to see that. And then I had a vice principal who had only known me for like, I want to say like 2, 3 months. And we were having a conversation, and he said, Scotula, in the last like 3 months that I've known you, you have done so much leadership, and I've seen it. And I just think like, the logical next step for you is administration. Like, have you thought about it? And I
Mhm.
just thought, if this guy who's only known me for like, a minimum amount of months
Yeah,
thinks that I could do it, like, why don't I think that I can do it?
right.
So yeah, it was kind of a combination of both, and having that representation, because yeah, like we're so far behind, like the public board is way ahead of us in these things. And even with Tamil Heritage Month, we didn't have it, and I had been like promoting it in the school that I was at, but I wanted to be recognized all over our board because we have over 300 schools, and like why wasn't it
Right.
recognized? And so doing a delegation for that as well like really made me think, and forming a committee. And I just thought, like if I can tell like principals what to do, I can do this job.
Right. Okay, so just going back to you being a teacher, like what kind of teacher were you? Were you like a hard ass, or were you like the easygoing, super chill teacher that everyone can just kind of come to and like, talk to about their issues?
I
Like,
think
or
I was a mix of both, but for the most part, like I didn't get any issues because like people would say to me all the time, "Oh, you're a young teacher. Like, don't these kids give you a hard time?" But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, but I think honestly, like skin color and who you represent yourself as is so important. You know,
Mhm.
I was very like proud Tamil. They all knew it. You know, I got along with all the kids and outside of. So if you're a teacher that's just a classroom teacher, versus I was a teacher who did everything outside of too. So I was coaching, I was doing multicultural night. You get to see kids, you know, and get to know them in a different way. And
Yeah.
so when they see you in the classroom, they're less likely to act up because they know like the other sides of you. And they know that, you know, when you're strict for a reason. So they respect you.
Mhm.
And I think I was that kind of a teacher. Like I was very like chill and fun outside of,
Mhm.
right? But I was hard on them with like deadlines and stuff like that. But they respected me for that inside the classroom. And then with student success, like, you know, all I do is like work with the so-called like troublemakers of the building, right? And try and get them to pass,
Yeah.
try and get them to pass their courses. So like I'm just constantly on them. Like I've even gone over to a kid's house that's on my street and like woken them up and been like, get to school.
So
So
is
yeah.
that one of the reasons why? Because like that's exactly what I was thinking. Because if when you're a young teacher teaching in high school, I feel like it would be difficult. But it
Yeah.
was that one of the reasons why you didn't initially want to teach high school, that you elected like primary, junior to
Yeah,
start?
I thought it was easier, you know, being a young teacher to start there.
Mhm.
And then I wasn't sure about high school at all because I thought for sure like I was going to get attitude and issues, you know, with all these kids. But honestly, nothing. Like not anything that I was scared of at all.
That's really good. How do you like, because again, you're teaching high school and then you have three kids at home, so and two young
Mm.
kids at home. So obviously there's like a big difference between how you deal with the kids at school and then when you come home, like your kids, you got to like kind of turn a switch and like it's like the mom now, you know, dealing with kids. So
Yeah.
like how do you find that balance? Like how do you kind of try and have both sides, but like, you know, not make it
I think
confusing
it's
for either?
Yeah, I think it's different when it's your own kids, you know, and you're used to them in a different way, and you have a schedule with them versus kids in high school. But I like the difference. I liked going to school and dealing with the high school kids and their issues, and then coming home, and it was different because the kids were so young.
Mhm.
But with my oldest, like I did put him in high school, in my own high school, so that I can make sure, you know, like when he came from Sri Lanka, I had to make sure like he did all his ESL courses and, you know, prepped him for university and stuff, which I felt like I couldn't do if I was somewhere else. You know,
Mhm.
it was just easier to like make sure the guidance counselor gave him a good schedule and stuff like that. So
Right.
yeah, it wasn't too hard, I don't think, you know, to switch on and off.
Yeah. So how did
Yeah.
so what kind of like obstacles did you face just trying to become an administrator, whether it be because you're a woman or because you're a visible minority? Like, did you face anything? Did you feel like you were facing obstacles that like other people may not be facing in the same situation?
There's some, you know what, like honestly, I felt like for the most part, all the white administrators told me, hey, you should go into admin. So I didn't feel like there was any like racism there. But like, like, you know, little microaggressions you do hear. Like when I was hired permanent, there was a joke. Like one teacher came up to me and was like, haha, you know that you're only hired because you're a minority, right? And, and I was like, yeah, that's the reason they hired you too. So, you know, we kind of like played it off like that. And for the
Right.
and of course my last name, right, throws a lot of people off. So
Sure.
I hear a lot of things when they have to pronounce my name, or they'll say, can I just call you Miss N?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm always like, yeah, but my last name's pretty phonetic and you can say it.
Yeah.
So I've had them, you know, say it. And when I was teaching grade 1, like the kids all knew my last name fully.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to high school, it was funny because like you'd walk down the hall, you'd hear hi Miss N, hi Miss N, and then hi Miss Never to Singham, and then I'm like, oh, you're from Goretti. You know. But yeah, like I don't know, I did hear a few microaggressions towards me, and about the skin color, or like, you see a difference when you have parents come in. So the times when I used to be like, for instance, when I was coaching and I would have like a parent, and when I talk, I guess, they say it's coding, right? Like you can't tell that you're brown or you're Tamil on the phone. And so when they're talking to you, they didn't realize. And then he made like a big stink about, like I didn't let his son play cricket that day because of whatever, like he was doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was ready to like, confront me while we came off the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And I went up to him and I'm like, "Hi, Mr. So-and-so, I'm a Sen, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh," I was like, "You're the teacher?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I'm brown just like you." You weren't expecting that, did you?
He's ready to play the race card.
He was so ready, yes. And then he realized, he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he took back everything, like he was fine. Or like certain other parents who, like, when I was teacher in charge over summer school one time, I caught a kid doing weed, but he posted it on social media. I'm like, oh my God, like why would you do that? So I had the video, and I called the parents, and the parents were so upset, and they're like, "You're going to suspend him for 2 days? Like, how could you do this, And I'm going to send my husband." And so in walks this big Jamaican guy, and he's like, "Who's the principal?" And I walk out and I'm like, "Hi, I'm the principal," right? So then he's like, "Oh," and his whole like face changed, and he came and sat down. He's like, "If this was Jamaica and like we would pull out the belt, but I couldn't do it." And I'm like, "Oh, I know, we used to get beats." Yeah, but that's what I saw. I saw like a change in people's perspective for the positive, and I did see some negative, but I think I can play the cards pretty well. Like I can be white when I need to, and I can be very brown when I need to. Yeah.
How do you keep pushing yourself? Like what is that motivating factor for you? Because I mean, like just me getting up every day is just like it's like, okay, tick, it's a win column, like you made it to work today, but like what makes you keep pushing further and keep pursuing that dream of yours?
I think one part of it is like just the disappointment from my from my dad in the beginning. So I'm like, okay, I gotta show him, like, I can make something of myself. And like I sent him my nameplate, that said vice principal and had Appa's name on it, right? And so he was very happy. Like he's proud of me now, but he never thought about it before. And the other thing is, like, as you know, Ravi, like my husband passed away, and that was literally right before I started my master's. So I remembered, like I was applying for it, and I was saying, like, what are we going to do? Like I have to attend all these classes and go to school and take care of these kids. And like, should I still do this now? Or like, do you want me to wait? And he said, no, like, do it. I'm here, and then like right before it started in September, and then he passed away in July. So it was, that part of it was hard. But then I thought to myself, like, not just for, those kids at school that see me as a role model, but for my own daughter, really. Like, I think that's what really motivates me. Mm-hmm. Like, she's a firecracker, she doesn't take shit from anybody. And
she has her own YouTube channel.
She does. Felicia's World of Art, just plugging that in there. But she's like so outgoing and so, like just out there and confident. And I want her to know, and for all girls to know, that, like things may happen in your life. Like, I lost my mom when I was 15, and then again with Ravi, and it hasn't been easy. And there are days, Nilani, when like I don't want to get up, and there are days, literally that like every day I go to work, I sit in my car for 5 minutes and I give myself a pep talk. like, you got this, you can do this, you know, like you're gonna get them. So yeah, like I really have to tell myself that on a daily basis, to keep going. But I think the kids, and then the kids that I see, you know, or kids that message me and say, wow, miss, like, you know, we're proud of you, like we know that we can accomplish these things. And for that, for them, that kind of keeps me going, that keeps the fire going. And yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't, it goes without saying, but you're such an inspiration to everyone that knows you. You're such a great role model. You've been a role model for me, and I'm hoping to other people that are listening to this episode, just in like how strong, like how much, if you can put your mind to it, how much you can push through whatever obstacles put in front of you. And it's very important. I'm sure you also had like a very good support system to surround yourself with people that are encouraging you and pushing you to achieve your goals as well. And I think that's also very important.
No, for sure. And like, I believe in the power of manifestation. And I believe that, you know, like when you put something out there, the universe just aligns all these things. And honestly, like how I got here is so crazy because of that. Like even people who were placed on my interview panel, people that like helped me throughout, you know, and like I've known these people, like superintendents that I've worked with as a teacher. You know, one of them, like in grade 1, we worked together and we still maintained our friendship. I didn't know that he would go on to become superintendent, you know, one day. Or like another teacher who, you know, we shared a desk and fourth period, you know, prep, and we would do no work but talk to each other. And now he's a superintendent too, you know. So like things, when you put your mind to something and you really visualize it and want it, I think, you know, God and the universe kind of put those things in place for you, and things just magically start to happen. So in retrospect, I look back and I'm just amazed at the different things, you know, because like I thought for sure I was going to be a primary teacher.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, something just happens and it just like, you know, shifts everything. And so many times my life has been shifted, you know, but in the end, it's all been positive.
Right.
So even if you can't see it in that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like, you know, like I go through my regular like hardships, and I like see a therapist, and I try, you know, kickboxing to deal with my anger. That works. So, you know, everyone be aware. Like,
Akash is also into kickboxing, so if you could just like kind of whoop it. He's always telling me to come, and I'm just like, I don't.
You should. You would love it.
But it makes you sweat. I don't like sweating. I don't want to sweat. I'm like, can we play?
Unless you're dancing, because that's yes,
that's different. That's different. Just like see, whatever happens, it happens for a reason. Like I'm such a firm believer in that, and it's like all these like relationships that you built that you didn't even know at the time. Obviously, you like, these relationships, and then like 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, they end up meaning something way more. But it's very important to build these relationships, you know, and like it's just crazy because like I didn't even know that you did primary school. Like I've always just pictured you at Vanier, like that being your first school. So just to think that you were pretty much good where you were, and someone invited you out for coffee, or you know, to come have coffee with her.
It's just crazy.
What happened?
Yeah, even when I switched schools, it was kind of the same thing. Like the principal invited me for coffee, and then he was like, "So this is not a coffee date. This is an actual business meeting." And I was like, "What?"
Sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry. No, I was just gonna say, like, you just never know, like, you know, and when you want something, it just magically happens. So it's crazy.
How was the St. Michael's, like all boys school, compared to being at Vanier? Like, how did you find the change?
It was a big change for me. I'm not gonna lie. You know, like I loved the time there, and I loved, like, you know, how much of an impact we made. When I first went in there's so much of a divide amongst the school, like the choral staff from the elementary school, because it's not just a high school, it's an elementary and high school. Boys start there in grade 3.
Oh,
right?
okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then the parents are paying for the music side of things, but the academic side of things is free. It's publicly funded. And so it was really crazy. And there was piano teachers downstairs. So me being like the social butterfly, then you got the cathedral next door, and the cardinal is there. So you're like, oh my God, but you have to be careful of what you do. But yeah, like, I formed a social committee there, and we were able to like unite kind of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like when I went down to the piano teachers and I said, okay, like, would one of you like to be part of the social committee, and let's do this and let's do that. And they said, we've never been invited to anything before. So it was like, wow, like, okay, no wonder you have a divide. And, I really like forming relationships with people and just talking and getting to know everybody and kind of bringing people together. And we were really able to do that. So that part of it was awesome. We did student council. I got taped to the wall. Like we've done a lot of crazy things, and karaoke and board games night. And you kind of have to like, the boys are so shy, right? Like they love singing, but they sing for the church. So like when they want to sing, otherwise it's like, okay, so teachers have to go up there, start singing first, and they're really shy with the girls. So we introduced, the girls' school next, close to us. Like we would bring them in whenever we could. So yeah, it's like, it was good, but it wasn't my Scarborough kids. Like I miss like, the kids that like have real issues and like come from, homes that may not necessarily have all the support that they need. Cause like, like I kind of grew up like that with my mom passing away and my dad working a couple jobs, and you kind of have to do things for yourself. And so I get what they're going through, and I've always lived here. So I think for me, that was the biggest thing. I feel like I can make more of an impact. And so with St. Michael's Choir School, I didn't think that I could, but now that, like I'm leaving, the amount of parents that have reached out to me and the amount of students that have reached out to me is to say like, wow, miss, like you're incredible. We're going to miss you. And I'm like, really? I had no idea, but okay. So, because
Well, that's always
like,
nice to hear, though. Even if it's a surprise, it's nice to hear.
No, because you think like they're a little bit more entitled per se, but really like or even with the color aspect, right? Like I was a brown teacher there. We had a brown principal, but you always wonder like, are you as accepted as like in a wide community, because they only had like 9 high school teachers. So it wasn't a lot. It was a very small population. Yeah, but they don't see it. They like, they were very appreciative of it. So
really nice.
It worked out.
So now what's your plan for the summer? Because I know today was the last day of school. So when do you start in your new post? So like what's the gap?
So I kind of like, you kind of have to start a little bit now in terms of attending staff meetings. So today it was interesting. This morning I attended my goodbye staff meeting at St. Michael's Choir School, and then the introduction staff meeting at St. Patrick. So it was really nice. But yesterday I went into the school just to like drop off my stuff and kind of make my office, my own kind of thing. And the other vice principal came in. She's like, I have a gift for you. And it was like a big bottle of Lysol.
I thought you were going to say wine. I was like, we're off to a good start, but Lysol helps too.
No wine. No alcohol at all.
Well, right.
Right.
Oh, this is a Catholic school.
It doesn't matter. We could have wine at mass, apparently, but just not wine in our desk, But yeah, like we started with that, and then I will be officially starting on August 23rd. So the principal was like, so, like you're going to be in charge of like things like equity and like attendance and stuff. And, your alpha is from A to L. And I was like, oh, this is so nice. And then he's like, yeah, so we're going to be doing interviews that week of August when you come in. And I was like, oh. And then it just kind of hit me like, I'm going to be on the other side of the table. Like, what?
What?
But yeah, it was really interesting. And then when I was leaving yesterday, what was also really interesting was, someone who didn't like, I was introduced as just Scotula, and so they didn't really like look up at all. And then when they were introducing me to somebody else, they're like, "Oh, this is our new vice principal, Scotula." And then the other person was like, "Oh, you're the new vice principal," and
You're my
started
honors.
talking. Yeah. So then
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so, clearly like what follows your name has some significance to
Oh yeah.
people.
You can,
Yeah.
walk like, yeah, like when you walk down, you strut down that hallway. I'm sure you're doing it
I
anyway
don't know.
before, but there's a little,
Little pep in your step.
yeah, for sure.
I'll
So,
continue to be humble.
of course, of course. And
Yeah.
so one more thing, like, so what did you want to do? Like, what are your goals for this next journey in your life? Like, what are you hoping to accomplish as an administrator?
Okay. For this year, really, it's just like getting to know everybody.
Mhm.
I think, like I was introduced to so many people yesterday, I can't remember half their names. So like the goal is just to like know who you are, know what you teach, know, like a little bit of info about you kind of thing. So just to get to know them. And then of course the students, and then, making sure like the equity aspect is there because I'll be running the equity committee, and just like they have my support, and
Yeah.
knowing that I can talk to the parents as well, and calling parents when kids have done good things and not just
Yeah.
necessarily the bad. I think both of those things are very important. So yeah, just to get to know the lay of the land really for the first year. And then of course like my sights are set pretty high. Like I've met people that have said, yeah, you can be director of education one day, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. Like, why stop here? But
Right.
but yeah, I mean, you'll take it obviously one step at a time, and it's taken a long road to get here, and we'll keep going. We'll see. Maybe I'll love it and I'll stay in this role, and just principal will be enough.
Mhm.
But yeah, maybe I'll want to do more. So I've kind of just left that door open, and we'll see where things go.
Right. Do you think you're going to miss anything about teaching or like actually being a
Oh
teacher?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I was talking to the other vice principal, and she was telling me, she's like, she misses the classroom every day.
Mhm.
For me, like, I love teaching, but I think I loved the aspect of, working with kids on a one-to-one basis
Yeah.
and helping them, get past things, and using my experience to help. I think like that stuff outside of the classroom was more, I don't
Fulfilling.
know, like, yeah, more fulfilling for me, especially when, kids come back and they tell you, like, what you did outside of the classroom really impacted their lives. Or I have kids who say, like, Miss, I couldn't be where I am without you. And you don't think that you've done much, for them, but then they come back and tell you, and it's like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
so yeah, like that aspect of it, I'm really looking forward to. I know that I'll miss some of the day in and day out things, but I won't miss planning lessons. I won't miss marking, like the long ass essays that nobody wants to read. Oh
Oh my
yeah.
God. Yeah. Like, I mean, like
Oh
students, like I hated writing essays, but I
yeah.
can't even imagine like the other side of it where you're having to grade like 30 papers or
Oh yeah.
more in some
No,
cases.
I feel for those teachers. Like I've done, little bits of everything, so I know. And like the math and science is definitely way easier to mark,
Yeah.
just because there's like a right answer or a wrong
Yeah.
answer.
There's no
Yeah.
subjectivity. It's like it's
Yeah.
clear cut.
I was so happy with what I was doing. And I would tell kids too, like when you can get up in the morning and think, I want to go to work
Mhm.
and I love my job, yeah, like that's when you know that, you've done something right. Like Ravi used to tell me all the time, he's like, you care about those kids more than you care about your own kids. And I'm like, oh, it's debatable.
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
I'm like, I used to just tell him, I'm like, there's someone's kids.
Yeah.
you know, and like those parents kind of trust you, like when they're in your care, to take care of them, and then that's what I do. And yeah, like sometimes you do bring that stuff home, you know,
Mhm.
because he had like a 9 to 5, like he had a very like easy job that, you know, when he came home, he can just stop, like it was
Right.
factory work.
Yeah.
But like for me, I couldn't switch off my mind sometimes because you're always thinking like, okay, what's the next step for this kid? What can I do?
Mhm.
You know, and so yeah, like it wouldn't be that easy, but I still loved it, like so much of it. And I feel like I can still do that as an administrator. Like
Yeah.
I can cheer them on, you know, for sports. I can
Mhm.
be there for like the events after school, you know, all that stuff I can still do. And then I can work with the teachers and try to inspire and give them some motivation, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
Oh.
On that note, no, thank you again for coming on the podcast. I mean, we haven't really caught up in a long
No.
time too, and this episode obviously is dedicated towards your big step that you've taken.
Uh-huh.
Again, like I said, first Tamil administrator in the Toronto Catholic District School Board, which I mean, no one will be able to take that away from you. So it's yours. You know, that title is yours. No
It took a
pressure.
while. It took a while, to be honest, because when they first announced it, and even like the principal at St. Pat's was like, she made history. She's the first Tamil, you know, VP. And for me, I was like, oh my God, like this woman is amazing. Like this, like so happy, you know, as a Tamil woman. And then it kind of like slowly hit me like, oh shit, like that's me? What? Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a crazy kind of feeling. But yeah, like yesterday when I finally put the nameplate in there with the vice principal underneath it, I really like had to step back and think,
Yeah.
you like you've done something, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
that was nice. That was a nice
Yeah.
feeling for sure.
All right. Congratulations again. Any
Thank
parting
you.
words?
Parting words. Oh God.
No, I'm gonna have you back on, but we're just gonna talk about like our past and all the stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I would love that. Oh
We
my
will
God. Like
definitely have to do
the
that.
time you cracked your head open, you know, on the fireplace.
Oh, like on the table, I think.
No, we were downstairs by the fireplace. This is how I remember it anyway.
Okay.
Or, and then
When I
you
was like,
like
was it like
literally,
3 or 4?
yeah, you were
Like
so
really young.
small,
I don't
and
remember.
like you literally cracked your head open. They had to take you to emerge, and I was
I
so scared for you. You
I
were
don't
like my,
remember it, but I have this
yeah,
like
you
scar
have
where
the
like hair
scar.
doesn't grow there. So like my mom tells me it happened,
Oh.
but you know,
Yeah, no, like I felt like we were always so close when we were younger.
yeah.
And you kind of like, you know, were my little sister.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like
You still
Donaka,
are.
Donaka.
You still
Like
are.
your name would I think all my friends like know your name or know of you.
Aw.
Like I say your name all like everything. It's like Donaka, 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 like all the time. I was
Aw.
obsessed with you. But you know what? We'll talk about it another episode. 'Cause that's what I want to talk about, but like you can't like not talk about this. Like this is such a big achievement. So I was like, okay, you know what?
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
have her on again when we'll share some stories and like that'll
That'll
be a
be
big laugh and that'll be a lot of
nice.
fun too. So
Yeah, all our cool parties. Yeah, yeah.
thank you everyone for listening. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any feedback on today's episode, please do reach out.
Grateful,
Thankful.
blessed.